welcome to Discover You podcast. This is a community where you can show up exactly as you are, learn, grow, and discover how to stand in the power of who you want to be. I'm your host, Shar. Welcome, and let's dive in and discover you. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Discover You podcast. Today, we are diving into the first podcast episode of 2023. We closed out the end of 2022 with a really heartfelt, deep, intentional podcast episode talking about closing out our year, reflecting on our year. So I really want to talk about January, how the intentions of January look, kind of the way that we have been programmed to perceive January, and all my feels on how we just don't need to do what is expected of us for January. So we're going to talk all about that, releasing the expectation of goals and changing ourselves for the new year. Be sure that you're following the podcast wherever you're listening, on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, watching over on YouTube. Go subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and be sure to follow me over on social media. Links are all down below: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Stay connected. Instagram is where I live 99% of the time. So be sure to follow along, you guys. And with all of that said, let's dive into today's first episode of 2023 on the Discover You podcast. Whew, here we are, the new year 2023. Where has the last 2 years gone? What has happened? I'm pretty surprised by the whole thing, if we're totally honest, and raring to go for 2023. I'm excited for the year, but I also have a lot of angst against January goal setting. So I had posted over on Instagram, be sure you're following over there, about how January is always a time for me where I'm very much in like a resting state. I'm very reflective. I'm very tuned into myself, into my heart space, and really just being with myself. I think that there's a big pressure when January 1 rolls over of like, what's your goals? What are you doing this year? How are you being better? How are you growing? How are you this? How are you looking? Like, there's so much body pressure. There's so much growth pressure. There's so much like pressure in general to just do and be and exist. And it's overwhelming as heck. And I hate it. If I'm like totally honest, I hate it. And I don't buy into it. I started doing this a couple of years ago, and it has been such a relieving experience. I kind of go into January with the intention of it being exactly like how December was, where we're spending time with family, we're spending time with ourselves, we're resting, we're eating, we're sleeping, we're just being and existing. And I think that that's a really healthy way to be looking at it. It's great to have goals and have intentions all the time throughout the entire year. But the misconception we have is that January kicks off and we're like, I've got like these 5 or 10 goals that I want to achieve. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to eat better. I want to stop looking at my phone as much. I want to be a better partner. Like blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. And we put all of this pressure on ourselves. It's like a pressure cooker. And we're like in January in this like state of like, I've got to be better. And it's crazy. It's nuts. It's just not, it's not my jam. It's not my thing. I don't buy into it. And what I want to share with you guys is that like you don't need to buy into the narrative that everyone else is doing. We've created this culture around being better in January, starting the new year out this way. And I don't think it's necessary. If that's your thing and you feel good and you enjoy doing that, all the power to you. But if you're like me, where you're feeling this like weight and this pressure and this like expectation of yourself, then I really encourage you to like release that and let that go and no longer exist in this space where you have to do and you have to push. I think that January can be a really beautiful time where we're more introspective, we're reflecting on our life, on our year, we're looking at how we want to shape 2023. Because it's not just about the 30-day goal. It's not about getting this goal in and completing it in the next 30 days. And that's where the misconception is. It's like we want to implement manifest intentions that we can work on through the entire year. So something that I've always done every beginning of January is I always start a new journal every year. I try to use an entire journal for the whole year. So I start a new journal, and then I put into that all of my hopes and dreams and manifestations for the year. So things that are not necessarily goals that have a dated outcome, like a timeline stamped outcome, but they can be things that I want to work on throughout the year. And that's kind of the way I've always done things, where it's we should be growing and evolving and changing all year long. Every single day you should be challenging yourself to be a better version of yourself. And that's the motto that I've always lived by. Maybe that doesn't work for you, and that's fine, but I feel that we should always be growing. If we're not growing, we're dying, is what Tony Robbins always says. And it's something that has always stuck so close to my heart, because if you're not growing, you're dying. And we have to continue to grow, but we have to do it attainably, and we have to do it where it's sustainable, where you're focusing on good things every day instead of this insane goal that creates anxiety and stress and pressure, financial strain. And you just feel this sense of having to do and having to push. And there's, don't get me wrong, there's moments in life where you have to grind, you have to hustle, you have to push, depending on what it is. But there's also so much time where we shouldn't be doing those things, and we shouldn't be pressuring ourselves to lose 20 pounds in January for February 1st or February 30th or whatever. The expectation of what we put on ourselves is not good for us. And I think that having attainable goals, where instead of I want to lose 20 pounds by X amount of days, it's I want to lose weight over the year. I want to commit to moving my body every day. I want to commit to eating more vegetables and fruit, whatever that might be for you, right? So I think it's really about finding those attainable ways to do things and not having this timeline, this pressure, and this resistance to have to do. Because unfortunately, what happens is that pressure creates anxiety, creates stress, creates worry, creates fear, creates doubt, creates insecurity. And soon we're snowballing into these emotions where we're I'm not good enough and I haven't lost this much weight. So then it moves into the guilt and the shame, and that you didn't work hard enough. And instead of valuing and honoring our bodies, honoring where we're at, appreciating and loving our body where it's at right now, we have this overwhelming sense of guilt and shame. And that's, again, not an emotion we want to live in, right? We want to choose to move our body, choose to be more mindful, choose to be more happy, whatever your goal might be. Those goals can still exist in January, can still exist for this time of the year, but it's more so turning the mindset and changing it to being New Year's goals and more so intentions for your life and manifestations for your life. Putting out energy that is I want to be healthier all the time. I want to feel good in my body all the time. Those are the things that we really want to focus on. We really want to harness, is that feeling of waking up, and how do you want to feel every day? How do you want your day to look? What is going to bring you joy and happiness? And some days that's working out. Some days it's laying on the couch and eating potato chips. Whatever your day looks like, is finding that space to be intentional with it and to honor it and care about our well-being, our body, our mind, our heart, our soul. Because these goals of I've got to do this by this timeline is just stressful and overwhelming. And I don't think anyone feels good where they're I have to work out to lose weight, or I have to eat healthier to be skinny, or whatever these messed up narratives are that social media has pushed onto us, is we have to be better. And it's we don't need to be better. We need to be growing. We need to be learning about ourselves. We need to be honoring ourselves and loving ourselves in the journey that we're in, wherever you are. I know for me, this is the first year that I felt like myself. And it's been such a journey over the pandemic. And I talked really in depth about this in the end of year podcast that I closed out the podcast with in December. If you haven't listened to that, go listen. But I got really raw and really deep about the changes in my life, going through a breakup, transitioning through this change of, leaving my home, selling it, and all these different experiences that I'm going through. And this is like the first time I felt like myself in a long time. And I have so much exciting stuff happening and so many wonderful, amazing people in my life. And I feel like myself. And I decided that I was going to start the year without all of the pressure and the intentions and just purely, truly live to like feel excited about my life in the simplest way possible, by just like the simple things, enjoying a good cup of coffee, having good naps, enjoying the sun, enjoying good company with people, and spending the time reflecting and resetting and really figuring out what 2023 looks like for me. Because over Christmas, it's so crazy. You're with family, you're doing the holidays, you're eating pretty bad, like we're all indulging, we're enjoying, but you're so overstimulated by all of the stuff that I don't really feel like we actually get the reset and the time to just like sink into ourselves and to think about what we want for our lives. So for me, January has kind of turned into a time where I'm allowing myself to really just think, to sit in meditation, to sit and journal, to sit and just listen to music and like allow what's coming up to show me what is the next steps forward. Because planning is, great on one spectrum, but it's also something that you can't plan if you don't have that intuitive nudge or that passion or excitement for something. So if you're fired up and got that passion and have the knowing, all the power to you, go and reach for those goals. But if you're not really quite sure where you're at, then I think it's really a great time to just sit with self and to sit. And I've said this to you guys in many podcasts before. It's like sitting with yourself and being like, what do I want? How do I feel? Where am I at? Like asking yourself those hard questions that you don't have the answer to. And I'm starting out the new year feeling really happy and really excited about my life and my health and my well-being and the people in my life. I have so much to look forward to right now, but I'm just like, what's next? And part of me knows, but part of me is like, I also have no freaking clue. So January is the time to sit in that and go, okay, what am I doing? I'm doing nothing right now. All right, we're just doing then. We're just being in the moment. We're just existing right now. So wherever you're at, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you allow space for inspiration to come, is that you allow yourself to rest and reflect and not get wrapped in the goals of like, I have to do for January, instead of just being here with yourself. So I think that is really like what the focus should be when we hit January 1 and it rolls over. It's like, okay, what am I feeling? What's inspiring me? What do I want to do? Like having the time with yourself, that is the most important thing right now. So that's my message for you guys today. I didn't plan on doing a podcast for January because I was very much like, nope, we're not doing this New Year's goals and resolutions junk, because it just does not resonate with the present Shar that exists now. So I hope that offers some insight into goal setting, intentions, manifestations, whatever you want to call them. I hope that it offers you something to think about, to pick apart, to unpack within yourself, and that you find whatever avenue is best for you. I don't have all the answers, but I speak from an intuition in a space where I spend a lot of time intentionally thinking and dreaming and manifesting. And it's just, these are the things that are coming through that I need to share with you guys, because we don't need to follow the pack. We don't need to follow the trend of what a New Year's resolution looks like. We can listen to ourselves, because at the end of the day, we are our best teachers and we have so much power within us to learn from ourselves and to support and help others. So I hope that January is good to you. I hope that you are valuing and loving yourself for how amazing you are, because we're still in this precipice of coming out of challenging years, and people's mental health is harder and more challenging than ever right now. And I want you to remember that you have everything within you that you need, and that you are so powerful and so incredible, and that you can do whatever you want to do. So I'll leave you guys with that message for today on the podcast. Be sure that you're following over on social media, connect with me, reach out over on Instagram, and of course, follow and rate the podcast if you feel called to wherever you're listening. It means so much for me. It means so much to support other people that are needing to hear these messages. So I thank you so much for being here, for listening, for another year on the Discover You podcast, and have an amazing January, and we will talk on the next episode. Take care, you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.